The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? You want me to make a joke about the Magdalene laundries after watching small things like this? Nope. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
I believe they found a way to tell what seems to be a very good story in possibly the most boring way possible.
This was a slow movie and a very visually drab movie.
Very.
This episode, we are talking about small things like these. It is a story of a devoted father who works as a coal merchant to support his family, and he discovers disturbing secrets kept by the local convent and uncovers truths of his own, being forced to confront his past and the complicit silence of a small Irish town controlled by the Catholic Church. So what this film was really about is an order, I guess, I don't know if that's a proper word, but the Magdalene Society or Asylum in Ireland, who up until 1998 basically took in unwed teenagers and stole their babies, forced them to give up their babies to be rehomed because what they had done was immoral. And it's crazy to me that this is up until 1998. And we follow the story of Bill, who he himself appears to have been born to an unwed mother who passed when he was maybe around 10 or so. So he understands this subject from a firsthand standpoint. And in his town, as he makes his coal deliveries, he sees girls being pushed and dragged into the convent, screaming and crying, "Don't make me, don't make me, don't make me." And ultimately you realize what's happening in this convent, and that there's one instance with a girl named Sarah, and I believe Sarah was also the name of his mother, who appears to be locked in the coal shed repeatedly, and you have to assume by the nuns as some sort of punishment.
Yeah.
And the movie finishes with him standing up and bringing this young girl home to his family, where he has 4 daughters himself, defying what everyone basically says is don't get involved, it's not our business, because this small Irish town basically kowtows to the convent because they also run the school, and if you want your kids to go to school, you kind of have to play nice with the nuns. And it is definitely a slow-moving film. It's drab visually, like I said earlier. It's just browns and olives and dark blues. The only time you see any splash of color in this entire film is when he looks at a jigsaw puzzle, which was a gift he wanted at Christmas when he was a kid, and a Rubik's Cube. And other than that,
even that wasn't very colorful.
Yeah. And yeah, initially I felt like we didn't get to the point of what the conflict was until at least a good 45 minutes into the film. And then he gets into the convent and gets involved and whatnot. But after that, I realized what the point was. And it was just a very subdued story of this Magdalene order of nuns.
Yeah. Ugh.
Listen, I know that everyone has their opinions. I can say that my first grade experience, I went to parochial school from 1st through 8th grade. And my first grade experience, I went to a different school than I did 2nd through 8th grade. And my first grade, we had nuns. And I got to tell you, I don't know what the deal is with nuns, but nuns are not generally nice women. I don't know what the screening criteria is to become a nun, but
I think they'd be a little nicer if they were getting laid.
Okay, I don't even know what to do with that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they're not, since you know about chastity.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with that comment. Okay, so
there's a reason why the joke, why is sex a misdemeanor, or sex is a misdemeanor?
Why?
The more I misdemeanor I get.
Wow, it just keeps getting worse.
Yeah. So clearly those nuns, many misdemeanors.
Huh. Okay. Anyway, so these nuns obviously were using these young teenage girls to operate the convent and scrub the floors. And he has an encounter with one of them initially when he's kind of going in trying to find out what's happening in there. And one of them scrubbing a floor and basically says, help me get out of here. And my experience with nuns, nothing in that film shocked me because I've had that experience. And granted, I'm not saying my experience is universal. I'm just saying that I could understand what was happening there and that this was actually a thing for several decades in Ireland. And how many young girls forcibly had their kids taken. And granted, there are a lot of teenagers who are not at all capable of becoming moms. But you know what? That should be their decision. Every woman should have that right to make their decision on what they want to do with their bodies and their babies.
No, baby, your body, my choice. Remember?
Yeah, just wow, everything that keeps coming out of your mouth during this episode.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to dip my face in acid for having even said that.
So I want to explore here, since we're going to be looking at what would you do, is Bill's situation and maybe his wife's. So Eileen is his wife, and when Bill shares with her his concern about what's happening over there, she basically says, no, not our business. We don't get involved. I know you understand this topic, but we're not going there. And you can see as the movie progresses, it's just troubling him more and more.
Yeah, it's like we know he's going to go there eventually. We're just not sure how long it's going to take.
Yeah, or what that's going to look like. And that's actually kind of interesting when you look at the dynamic between husbands and wives and someone who feels really strongly about someone or something. And the other one is like, yeah, no, this is not good for our family. And that was Eileen's standpoint. And even one of the nuns very nonchalantly tried to pay off Bill after he found the girl for the second time in the coal shed of putting together a Christmas card with some cash in it saying, give this to your wife.
Wait, that was the first time, I think. The second time he took her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
First time.
Yeah, it was first time. Yeah, that was.
But the point being is that the nuns knew what they were doing, and so he didn't immediately give the envelope to his wife, and the wife had a encounter with one of the nuns, and she didn't know anything about the envelope full of money, and then was like, oh, this is great. This was so nice of her. This will help a lot at Christmas. And I'm like, no, that was not the sister's intent in giving that money. That was implied hush money.
Yeah, that's blood money.
Yeah, you don't get involved here. This is not your problem. And that's an interesting thing because as society shifts, that line seems to shift as when do people step in, when do people step up?
Yeah, and like stepping in and stepping up is one thing. Stepping in and stepping up to the Catholic Church is something else. I mean, maybe today, but I mean, the Catholic Church has wielded an insane amount of power over the years. So, and you generally, especially up until the huge like altar boy whole thing came out, you generally assumed that if the church was doing it, it was God's plan. It was best interests. Like, why would the church do anything wrong?
Right. These are trusted community figures. And I have to say, disregarding my first grade experience with the nuns, the rest of my experience going to a parochial school was very positive. We had a father who was at our rectory who usually oversaw the masses that we went to once a week because the school was right next to the church, and then the rectory was right next to that. And his name was Father Ignatius, and as long as I live, I'm sure I won't forget Father Ignatius. And Father Ignatius said, you can call me Father Iggy. And Father Iggy, he went down to the beach and he surfed a lot. And he was the first religious type figure I had ever encountered who was like a real person, that wasn't this big ominous kind of scary, intimidating figure. Like in the Blues Brothers, which I know I made you watch, there's a sister in that, and she literally like floats in, and she is just this ominous, all-encompassing presence to intimidate people. And I think a lot of folks had that experience growing up. I don't know if that's still the case today, but Father Iggy was the first one who wasn't like that. He was just, wow, this is a person. And sometimes you would see him going out and he would have on shorts, board shorts, and a shirt, and you saw him out of that traditional priest uniform, and that was just unprecedented.
Yeah, I never had that experience. I did go to Catholic school for a number of years, or not Catholic school, just
School?
no. Well, I did go to school, and I went to church. I went to Catholic church, and I remember there was one who, I don't know, he seemed like he wasn't paid by the hour, and he would get us in and out of there fast, and I pretty much thanked him like every time for it.
That's funny. So going back to the exploring of what it looks like when a husband and a wife disagree on something. And I think this is an interesting topic to explore, because if one person feels really strongly about something and the other one is either reluctant or timid or scared or intimidated, whatever, to broach that. I mean, you think about how many things someone could encounter to want to get involved. Like if there's a neighbor and you think they're hitting their kids. So it could be very easy for one person to say, yeah, we shouldn't get involved in how someone chooses to parent their kids. But on the other hand, if someone's like, they're beating their kid, that's not okay. You know, where are those lines in relationships? And I'm sure that they look different depending on the people involved.
Yeah. I mean, I think you know this. I kind of have this general rule in my head of, like, when you and I have a disagreement on something, I try to figure out, okay, 1 to 10 scale, how do I feel about this? And I try to gauge on a 1 to 10 scale, how do you feel in the opposite direction? And if your number is higher than mine, then I give it to you. And if I think my number is higher than yours, then I won't necessarily give it to you. And maybe sometimes you have a number that's so high that you're like, okay, well, let's find a compromise here. If we're both 9s on this, that's going to cause a problem. So maybe there's a solution. Maybe instead of us getting directly involved, maybe we make an anonymous phone call. Or
do you mean a 9 positive and a 9 negative?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like really, really for and really, really against.
Right.
I mean, I've always said 10s are deal breakers. Like they're like relationship enders.
And I think the circumstance with Bill's wife, Eileen, it's probably not that she didn't care or she was indifferent to what was going on. I'm sure it was mostly based in fear that you need to protect your family first.
Yeah, she just didn't want to rock the boat and cause issues for herself.
And that's something personally that, I don't know, I'm not as inclined to give people a pass on that, because is that not how Hitler did what Hitler did?
Yeah,
when good people say nothing.
I was actually about to say, I've seen, I mean, I've been online a considerable amount polling or on political internets, and there are people who are being very outspoken as it pertains to Trump, and you will see other people that say basically be careful and stay safe and be careful what you say, because I mean he made it very clear he's coming for vengeance. So like, don't say something that's going to actually get on a high enough person's radar that you and your family could have problems.
See, and that's where I think things get dicey. Is society, I feel, is only as strong as our weakest people.
We are screwed.
And when, I can't remember who said that quote about good people, like evil flourishes when good people do nothing. I something along that line. And it's really true, is when you're just willing to step aside and say, this doesn't involve me, I'm just protecting, myself and my own. And I feel like we've talked about this briefly in another film, I can't think what, but you not only are not being a good steward of your community and your society, but you're also teaching your children that if it doesn't benefit you, that you should just be indifferent to the suffering of others. And I don't believe that.
I mean, I don't either. I mean, again, staying with the whole political thing, like you and I have had the conversation about it. I mean, really, if I look at it from an outside point of view and I take away morality and I take away like other people and stuff like that, like theoretically, a Trump presidency is actually good for me financially. But I just can't be that person that just sits back and says, you know what, it's good for me, so fuck everyone else. I just can't. You and I are the same way on this. Like I am a totalitarianist in that I generally will put the good of the whole ahead of the good of myself. But that said, I do put a little more emphasis on myself. Like it's how much good am I doing for the whole?
And I think it can be way simpler than the world of politics. I think it can apply to the most basic of things. Like, for example, if I was given an award or some sort of acknowledgement or a win on something, or maybe even if a child I had was, but I knew that we didn't actually earn it or deserve it, or someone showed preferential treatment or someone called something wrong, I wouldn't take that win. As much as I would want it, I would be like, actually, you counted wrong and that person has 2 more votes, or I was actually out and I didn't have my foot on the base or whatever. I don't think I would take whatever gain that air got me because it benefited me, and then, screw the person that actually, made the catch or won the election or the school election or whatever it was.
I will say this is a little bit sometimes of an ends justify the means situation. Like all things being equal and there's no like greater good being done, I agree with you. If there's a greater good, then I could maybe see if an error works out in everyone's favor, we're just going to leave that error alone. But yeah, I agree. Like, don't take credit for shit that's not yours. But do take credit for shit that's yours when it's, you screwed something up.
Yeah, and I'm not even looking at it as credit as much as benefit. Like, oh, if I benefit from this, I'm going to shut my mouth. I'm definitely not that person. I have always spoken up for what is right, even when it's not popular. So although I understand Eileen's desire to protect her and her family, you have to wonder in situations like that what she's teaching her 4 daughters.
Yeah, but let me tell you, on the flip side, if you're her and all of a sudden your husband comes in, it's like, surprise, we have a 5th daughter.
Well, and that's why the movie ended there.
Yeah, because I mean, like, we're dog people, but if I just came home with a dog one day, I think you'd lose your mind.
No, I wouldn't.
Justifiably.
No, I wouldn't.
Really?
No.
Okay, well, I guess I'm coming back with a dog one day.
Well,
but yeah, I'll, like, come back with, hey, here's a new mouth to feed.
Yeah.
Human mouth. Yeah, I think there could have been a very large fight that came at the conclusion of that movie that we did not see. But I still get the greater point. Like, take on, and you could tell, like, he didn't have a great upbringing, and he wanted to try to do right by others because he didn't feel like when he was younger that right had been done by him. So
yeah, he got a water bottle for Christmas. No child should ever get a water bottle for Christmas.
Yeah, but you do have to be a little careful about your white horse when you actually jump on and ride it. Though in this case, I think it's justified.
That was a horse.
Was it? Okay.
Of course.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.